everybody, it's time for Fantasy or Prehistory with Jay, Lion Layden, and tonight we're discussing Game of Thrones. Season 6, Episode 6 has a lot of reveals, and we're going to tell you what they mean right now. First, we have Bran's flashbacks in the opening scenes of Episode 6, Season 6. That was pretty quick, so in case you didn't catch it, now what we get is a quick shot of the pyromancer storing wildfire in jars underneath the Red Keep in the throne room. And then you get the Mad King saying, burn them all, orders to kill because he believes that he can kill all of his enemies and then be reborn as a dragon. Then you have the Night's King raising the dead. And I don't know if this is a reference to Bran's connection with him now that he has the mark, or it may be the connection that he has to him because he's a Stark, just like he has that connection with Jon Snow that we saw at High Home when they were sailing away on the ships. And the last thing we see is Bran's falling. This is the most repeated one that we'll see throughout Bran's visions, and I think there's a good reason for that we'll discuss in a little bit. In the next flashback, we get the pyromancers again, followed by the Night's King and the falling, Ned Stark's death, Catelyn's death, a city with a dragon shadow over it, again the Night's King with the baby and blue eyes, Ned Stark getting his head chopped off at King's Landing, the death of Catelyn, followed by the Night's King with a baby in its hands that already has blue eyes just like him. And he's doing some kind of ritual, pointing at him with his finger. Now this could be a flashback to an earlier scene where the Night's King takes Craster's child to a ritual location and is doing similar signs with his hands above him, turns his eyes blue. But I think that it's something deeper than that. It might be showing something that repeats over and over again throughout the years, something that maybe happened long, long ago. Another flash of Ned Stark, followed by yet another flash of the pyromancers in King's Landing making the wildfire and storing it. The Mad King saying burn them all, and still more wildfires being stored. There you had a scene of Jaime stabbing the Wild King in the Mad King in his back. This is during the sack of King's Landing when Tywin Lannister took control and Gregor Clegane killed Rhaegar's wife and babies. Jaime was a member of the King's Guard, and he was sworn to protect the king, but the king was saying to burn everyone, and he probably did a good thing there. You had Jon Snow, the death of Robb Stark, and then again it flashes back to the people of the forest making or the White Walkers. Jon Snow fighting the White Walkers, then a flashback to the making of the White Walkers once again. And now we have the last series of flashbacks just before the undead attack. Bran falls again, the pyromancers, the Mad King is saying burn them all. What does this vision have to do with the Starks? Now we think we know how the White Walkers were made, but there's also the legend of the Night's King and how he took this bride. This taking of the bride, what significance does it have for the rest of the story? Could it be that after that first White Walker was created, that some of his blood did get into humans, normal humans, such as another thing we need to understand is during these visions, it keeps repeating Bran falling from the tower. Now, that's a significant thing in his life, but what does it have to do with this episode, episodes to come in this season, and Bran's visions? We'll get to that in the third part of this, today's release, Thursday's releases, and when we talk about Bran and time travel in Game of Thrones. I think it has some significance to the time travel that Bran is experiencing, and has some relevance to a lot of the things that we're being exposed to right now about the nature of Bran and the nature of Bran in the past and previous Brans to the Brandon Stark we know now. Another thing is the explosion. We very briefly see this, but there's this explosion right after the scene with the Mad King. It's very brief, but there was supposedly no explosion in King's Landing due to the Mad King and the sacking of King's Landing. Supposedly Tywin and Jaime stopped it. But we see an explosion in Bran's visions. Is he seeing the future? Is he possibly seeing the Mad Queen, Cersei, blowing up as a last resort, blowing up King's Landing? Some people have pointed out that maybe the Mad King's repeating for hours of this phrase, burn them all, wasn't a command, but was actually a foreshadowing similar to Hodar's of the future when Cersei carries out those orders. I don't know, we'll see. So we also have a short clip of the Tower of Joy. I think this is probably foreshadowing that we're going to see more of the Tower of Joy, and we're going to get that R plus L equals J question solved very soon. And also, that's just keeping it in Bran's visions because it has a significance with the whole time travel scenario. All this stuff is happening at the same time. All times are happening at once, and Bran's struggling against the White Walkers all throughout history at the same time. Bran the Builder, Bran the Seeker, Bran the Breaker, Bran the Night's King, all these different Brans, and we'll get to that later in these 3 episodes we're releasing today on Thursday for episode 6. Now the next part I want to draw attention to is when all hope was lost for Mira and Bran, and the undead are surrounding them on all sides. Now if their savior was anyone but a character you've met before, it would be Dusesh Machina. But this character that you're seeing here is someone we've seen before in the books and in the show. It's Benjen Stark. And in a minute he's going to tell us how he got stabbed by a White Walker and left to turn, but one of the children of the forest, or several of them, raised him and stopped the progression by shoving a obsidian blade into his heart, much like the White Walkers were made. Tells his editor no when he asked if Coldhands has been to Stark. Now this could have been a planned release, a fake release, because George and the publishers really wanted to have that mystery to last for a long time. It could be also that George changed his mind. He changed a lot of things since his first synopsis and his first drafts. I mean, I think Arya was supposed to fall in love with Jon, and Tyrion was supposed to fall in love with Arya, and clearly that's not going on. So there's a lot different than what George originally planned when he was just trying to get that book deal so he could finish writing the book with his publisher. I think it's been cemented in his mind for quite some time that Benjen and Coldhands are the same people, and I believe, despite what people are saying on the net, Coldhands and Benjen are going to be the same people in the books too, not just the season. I want to place my bets on that right now. Now, why has Benjen been spared and not all the other thousands of zombies? Do the children of the forest go around saving people from turning into zombies? If they do, where are all the rest of the Coldhands? There's only one, and that's Benjen, and they sought him out for a reason, because he's a Stark, because he can communicate with Bran, because Bran would be able to trust him. There's got to be a reason for that, and I think it has something to do with the King of Winter being the Starks. There's some tie that they have some White Walker blood, and that maybe the reason why they are able to fight the White Walkers. It may not be just that Bran has been marked that he has an affinity with the White Walkers, but you saw the scene of the showdown at High Home where Jon and the Night's King have that standoff, staring contest. There's something to do with the Starks and the White Walkers. It may have happened after the White Walkers were created. It may have something to do with the Night's King taking a ghoulish bride. Maybe all Starks are descended from them, and they've got a little bit of White Walker blood, and that's why they can resist, with the children's help, the turning into a zombie, and maybe that's also why they are able to kill the White Walker so easily. There was a scene in episode 5 where one of the children of the forest tries to stab a White Walker and fails, but when Mira Reed throws her spear, hits him in the neck, he explodes. And that might be just because you can't hit him in the armor, you have to hit him in the face. Might also be because of the theory that Mira is actually Jon's sister, and Starks are really good at killing White Walkers. The implications of that is, oh well, Sam Tarly killed a White Walker too. Well, there's a lot of merit to the theories that the reason his father hates him so much is because he's a secret Targaryen too. But that's for another episode. We'll talk about that some other time. Now to the situation at King's Landing. We got Tommen finally getting to see his wife, Margaery, who's been locked up all this time for the Faith Militant. Now, I want to go ahead and say that right now, even though the Queen of Thorns doesn't even know it, Margaery is winning the Game of Thrones in King's Landing. Now you'll notice that Margaery is vague at the very beginning of the conversation. She doesn't really say anything positive or negative about the High Septon or the Faith Militant when she first speaks to Tommen, because she's looking for a reaction. Also, right here, there's a quick hint in that she sizes Tommen up by squeezing his arms, feeling the softness, confirming to herself that yes, he's still a boy and he must be manipulated. He can't quite be trusted. Here she is squeezing his arms to see his toughness and to size him up as a man or not a man rather than from affection. Here she is professing her faith and doing a very good job of convincing him that she's truly under the influence of the High Septon. When looking at Tommen, she has the demeanor of someone who is truly under the influence of the faith. But watch when she turns away. But watch when she's looking away from Tommen. Right there. That is the Margaery we know for just a second. Now, even though at the beginning of their conversation it seems almost obvious that Margaery is playing the game and not really under the influence of the High Sparrow, at the end of the conversation, she says some things about her brother Loras that makes you second guess that for just a second. But she'll reconfirm very subtly that she's actually playing the High Sparrow when we see her again on the steps in front of Jaime Lannister and the other Tyrells. Now in this scene, Sam gets all manly and takes his dad's sword, deciding not to leave Gilly with him after all. It stops right there. So these are the things I'm worried about. Is Sam's dad going to catch him on the way out and he's going to go ahead and kill his father then? Is he going to have to kill his father later? I would rather it be later, or maybe not at all. Maybe the old man could learn something from the kid, but it's not always how it works in the Game of Thrones. Oh no, Dad, you big dummy, I've got this. Go home! Oh, Margaery's got it all under control. When she saw her dad show up there with Jaime, she was surprised and kind of had the look of, oh no, you guys are messing everything up. She even does a little hand flutter, like shooing them away, because she's got it under control. She's going to end up with a ring of dead sparrows around her neck, as she's foreshadowed in an earlier episode. And if she were to let Cersei and Jaime and her father take control handedly from the High Sparrow, and she wouldn't get Loras back, and Cersei would have saved the day. She doesn't want that to happen. She's going to come out smelling like a rose, because she'll have not only the High Sparrow under her control, but she'll also have Loras out of the dungeon when she gets finished. And her Twitter account is very telling, not the actor, but Margaery Tyrell's official Twitter account is good to watch, because just minutes before the show, she alluded to the fact that she would not be taking any kind of walk anytime soon, shame or otherwise. Oh no, not you too, Grandma. Oh, did the High Sparrow see me? And if you look ever so close, you'll see Margaery do a little hand flutter here, as my brother also pointed out. There she goes. Go away. This is a subconscious gesture that is kind of shooing them away, because she's got this. Now in this moment, Margaery shows that she's even gone beyond even the Queen of Thorns. Now the Queen of Thorns may not believe that her daughter is brainwashed by the High Sparrow, but she doesn't yet understand Margaery's endgame, and she may be underestimating her. She probably just thinks that Margaery's having to do this because she's beaten, when in actuality it's because she has figured out the High Sparrow and the game. Okay, now if Margaery wins, she takes control of the High Septon, kind of, and the rest of the faith through guile and intrigue. She'll be on the upper hand. Cersei will not have anything on her, and the trial will go as planned, the trial by combat that Cersei has requested. And we all know that that's going to be Sandor Clegane. In the books, of course, Brienne sees the gravedigger that looks a lot like Sandor, and he is under the care of people who have associations with the High Sparrow and the faith. And so a lot of people have theorized Cleganebowl, and I think that's going to happen, especially since we've heard that the actor that plays Sandor Clegane has been seen very near set, and there's a few other clues popping around on the internet too. But I think that's going to happen, and I think it's going to be a big surprise. Cersei has sent Jaime away. She's kind of alone at King's Landing. She thinks she's safe because she's got Gregor Clegane, but what happens when Sandor the Hound shows up to fight him? Going back to those pyromancers and the explosion we saw in Bran's visions, could it be foreshadowing an act of desperation? Margaery takes control, and we think that she's won. She's taken control of the Game of Thrones and King's Landing, but in a final act of desperation, Cersei tells Qyburn to go ahead and burn them all. And that's what the explosion we're seeing. That could be true. I would not put it past Mr. Martin. I don't think that Cersei will die in an explosion if that happens, because she has to be killed by the little brother according to prophecy, and I think that it may actually pan out that we think Margaery's won. She has played the Game of Thrones to the best. She's beaten Cersei at her own game, but Cersei does something unthinkable. She goes crazy. She lights the fire to protect her last kid, She lights the fire to protect her last kid and goes completely insane, and she may end up playing out for a good while. Of course, she's been with us from the beginning, so we can expect that she'll live maybe possibly to near the end. And I don't know if that means that she'll kill Margaery in the explosion, because according to prophecy, Margaery said that she was going to end up with dead sparrows around her neck, and this may be what that is referring to. She may be the only one that survives when Cersei blows it up. Now that's just speculation. I'm just thinking in my head how this might play out literally and logically. Thanks everybody. What do you think about these theories? You got anything that might be a game changer for the Game of Thrones? This is all for fantasy and prehistory this week, but we hope that you'll subscribe. We release every Thursday. Next week we have a lot more exciting theories on Game of Thrones, and we do everything from books to movies to games and music on anything prehistoric or fantastic.